Hi, everyone. It is Carol C.C. Miller, your positivity trainer, peace activator, and global hugger, coming to you solo today for This is Life Beautiful and Messy. And first of all, I always forget to do this, so let me remind you, if you are in the need of a hug to heighten your celebrations or lessen your sorrows, please add in comments where you're joining me from. And when I'm done with this, it's going to be an abbreviated version today. It's going to be abbreviated unless you come chat with me. I will come in afterwards and give some virtual hugs. But today I really wanted to talk to you about how do we stay in love when we've received personal bad news or just news maybe in our country or in the world, and it brings us into a state of fear. Now, it's super easy to go into fear when we've heard a fear-based story or a fear-based thought or a fear-based action. It's very easy to join that energy into fear. But I'm going to really encourage us all, including myself. I would love to tell you that I don't step into fear when I hear an alarming story. I do. But the work that I do and consistently do, I don't stay there that long. It is a practice and it's a passion and purpose of mine. So it's something that really is part of my everyday life. Hi, Yogesh. I hope I said your name correctly. So I just wanted to give some tips on a few ideas of when you've heard bad news and to be able to stay in love rather than stepping into fear. So my first tip is always going to be take some deep breaths. Anytime we hear something that makes us angry, sad, or whatever, and we step into that fear space, we tend to constrict ourselves and then cut off our oxygen supply that we need in order to be able to step more into love and to be thinking outside the box and coming up with positive solutions rather than going into blame and shame. And blame and shame is a very guttural, quick, knee-jerk reaction to do. It doesn't serve you, and it also doesn't serve the situation that has put us into the fear. So first of all, you're going to take some deep breaths because your body needs that oxygen to be able to make choices that you get to decide to make. It's not a right or a wrong. It's a choice that you get to choose how to move forward with. And so secondly, I really want you to honor your feelings. I mean, just because I talk about positivity and I'm a positivity trainer and coach does not mean that I don't have negative feelings and emotions, because I certainly do. And the more that you're able to be okay with those feelings, the quicker you're going to move through them. Now, when I get angry, I don't act upon it is my first thing. So feel it, ask, what's bubbling up inside of me that's making me angry about this situation? Because a lot of times that's how we're feeling about how we would feel in the situation rather than what the situation is. So just ask yourself, how do I feel about this? Why am I so mad? Why am I so scared? And be gentle with yourself while you're moving through it. Juliet, you want to get away from some financial fears? Okay, we'll talk about that in just a second as well. Hi, Ellen. Thanks for joining. So really, all of our feelings serve us. When I talk about remaining positive and focus on positive does not mean you're not going to have a negative feeling. And those negative feelings can be there to serve you just as much as they can harm you. The more you know how you want to feel, the more you're going to step out of those fear-based feelings. So when you're aware that you're really mad and you're starting to pay attention to how it feels in your body, then you're most likely going to want to move to a better feeling place. And Juliet, let's just go ahead and talk about finances really quick on that, because that is something, that we're also focused on money and creating wealth and not living in scarcity. When we are in scarcity, I've certainly been there where my credit card bill is bigger than what I feel is coming in. And it's certainly easy to get stuck in that space of scarcity when we don't see it coming in. But I would encourage you, Juliet, and myself, and anybody else, is to just reach for a better feeling thought. So I don't know your personal situation, Juliet, but I would encourage you to start counting your abundance in other areas of your life. Maybe it's you have an abundance of health. Maybe it's you have an abundance of friends or abundance of shoes. Whatever it is that you feel truly abundant in your life, focus on that and then start bringing that energy into your finances. A lot of us have belief that money is bad and it's the evil, it's the root of all evil. I mean, we even see that in how we say corporations are bad. Well, I promise you, there are some corporations that are run in ways that do more harm than good. But there's a lot of corporations out there where people are focused on their employees and focused on creating a community and being part of the global world rather than just a profit line. So when you even think about ways that we focus on the negatives of money, turn that around and think of the positives of money, because it's easy when we don't see it coming in to see it as a bad thing. Money is truly an energy exchange. It's just energy. It's Juliet, I would really encourage you to read a book called The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. She used to work for, I don't remember which, it was a global nonprofit, and her job was fundraising. And so she has some really good tips in there too. But she's like, we created money. Money did not exist until man created it. So our fear of it is something we brought upon ourselves. So the more that we can focus on it being our friend rather than our foe, the more that we're going to be able to bring that prosperity to us. It's baby steps. It's practice. I've said it many times on the live feeds. If I could go to the gym one day and be buff and fit, I would be there in 2 seconds. To be in great shape requires practice and continued effort into your diet and your exercise, just like having a positive mindset. It requires you to continually work on it and be gentle with yourself when you step into that space of fear, because you're gonna. I mean, I do. My friend Ellen, who is with me here, will text her right now about things that are where we have stepped into fear. And fear is just a space. Well, there's a couple of things. Fear could be truly you are in an unsafe space, get out. So that type of fear is helpful. But if it's just a simple fear of finances, or I shouldn't say simple, if it's the type of fear that it's more of a mental fear rather than a true physical fear, then it's giving us the opportunity to see this is what we don't want, and now let me focus on what we do want. If I am dealing with great debt and financial burden, and I try to imagine myself being a millionaire, that's probably too big of a step to take. So I would encourage you, if you're dealing with that, maybe just start focusing on, wow, I was able to take care of all my bills this month. I was even able to pay a little bit more this month. But to really do baby steps towards that is a big help. Lal, how can you tell us the book name is The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist, Lynne Twist. And there's another book that I'm going to be reading. I believe I have it on the book club for December, so I have not read it yet, but I've had friends tell me it's really good, called The Abundance Code. I don't recall the author right now, but it's busting 7 myths of finances that we deal with. So, Sudesh, help you get better at studies. Well, I'm not sure what your studies are, but I would encourage you, just with that saying, to start focusing on what you are good at, because I bet you're a lot better at your studies and a lot better at many things. We tend to be our biggest critics. I know when I talk about kindness, and some people will say, I'm always kind. Well, I promise you, I'm not always kind. I'm kind the majority of the time because that's the work I do and that's my focus and that's my passion. But I am unkind. And often my unkindness is to myself more than it is to other people. And sometimes it's to other people too. I'm not going to lie to you. But so I really encourage you, Celeste, to think about things that you are good at, and then start with your studies to just start focusing on that you love studying and that you love whatever you're learning. I'm not sure what you're working towards right now. But to be gentle with yourself. We tend to be our biggest critics and don't give ourselves the credit. One of the things I like to say is be your own best friend. Your best friend, you would raise up and you would tell them that they are good enough. You would certainly be honest with them and tell them when you feel that they need to make an adjustment. But we're really good to our best friends, so be your own best friend. Mustafa, most of the time when I'm afraid and worry about future remember myself, I lived 30 years perfectly. Yeah, and helps me a lot. That's a great tip as well, is when we're going through any kind of challenge. During the challenge, usually it doesn't feel good. Usually we don't want to be in that space. But I'm guessing, just like Mustafa said, 30 years, that we're going to have challenges, and we're going to face them, and we're going to grow through them. So if you're in a current challenge right now, whether it's finances or any challenge, think about your past of a situation that you did not like and that was uncomfortable. Perhaps it was sad, but you made it through it. So when we can start seeing our challenges as opportunity to grow, I like to say grow a bigger heart and to grow more into love, because it's really easy to step into fear when we're in a challenging situation. And stepping into fear, again, is not a bad thing. It's just, I encourage you to let fear visit, but don't invite it to move in. So the more that you can stay in a space of love, the more gentle your life is going to be. And we're all energy. So I imagine each one of you have been in a room where everybody's really angry or in a bad mood, and you can just feel it. It's the exact same if everybody is in that room feeling good and kind and compassionate. So know whatever space you're in, it's rippling out to the people around you. So be responsible for your energy, whether it's coming from a happy place or whether it's coming from a sad place. And when it's coming from a sad place, that I'm not asking people who are sad. There's many reasons that are valid, like a loved one dies, a job has changed. There's so many reasons to be sad. Sad is not a quote unquote negative emotion, but to come from that place from empowering yourself to move through it rather than feeling victimized by it. And it's easy to feel like a victim when things aren't going your way, but when you take baby steps to try to feel a little bit better, then you're going to get there as well. You're pursuing an MBA. Well, just keep doing it. There's a book you might want to read, Sudesh. It's called Into the Magic Shop, To the Magic Shop. Now I can't think of the exact name. James Doty. And he is a neurosurgeon, but his whole story is starting from as a child up until him being a neurosurgeon. And he actually had really not great grades in high school and even in college, yet he knew his passion was to be a doctor. And he continued on and he made it happen. So you can certainly keep working on that wherever it is. That if it's a passion of yours, I encourage you not to give up. Maybe change your path to get there a little differently, but certainly not to give up. As far as when you hear a sad story or something that makes you angry, I live in the U.S. right now, and there's a whole lot of government upheaval going on. I don't watch the news, but I'm on social media quite a bit, so I do keep up with it. And it's very easy to get into that space of how dare they do this, or how dare he do this, or she do this. And when we get into the blame and shame game, we are not rising up in love. We're falling down in fear. So when somebody is doing something that you don't like, and it could truly be something that isn't likable. I'm not about to say that some of these things that are going on are, good, but the more that we stay above that and help people rise up to it. Now, kindness does not mean you're a doormat. I'm not asking you to be nice to people. I'm asking you to be kind. So if you're going to disagree with somebody, you can disagree with respect. When we start calling names, even if that person started first, does not give us, or I'm going to say, does not give me the right. You have to choose for yourself. But if somebody is blaming and shaming me, I'm going to take the high road and not return the blame and shame. It could be very hard, and maybe in my head I'm going into that space, but I'm going to stand for who I want to show up in the world. And in the world, I want to show up as a kind person. I want to show up as a loving person, obviously a hugging person. That's who I am. And I also want to show up as a compassionate person. And I firmly believe that most people, the vast majority of people who are hurting others, are hurt themselves. And it's a deep wound that I'm not saying it's acceptable what they're doing, but it's because they're coming from their own pain. And the more that we can stand in a space of love and help the people that are being hurt rather than blaming the people who are being hurt. They have consequences. Unless I'm in the law enforcement or right there in the moment, then I step in and do what I can to stop things. But the more we can step away from blame and shame, the better you're going to feel. And again, it's about energy, and it's about spreading who you want to be to others. Do you want to be that person who is bringing more kindness, love, and compassion to the world? Or do you want to be the person who is bringing, helping spread the fear? And it's really sometimes can be a very subtle difference. I like to use it with positive focus. I'm going to screw up the quote, and I've actually seen it many different ways. But Mother Teresa is saying, if you have a anti-war rally, I will not come. But if you have a pro-peace rally, I will. And that is exactly the way I operate. There are many people doing great work in their way through fighting things and pushing the negative back at them. And that's just not me. If that's the way that you want to operate, do what is right for your own heart. I can't tell you what's going to be the most effective for you, but I can remind you that we are energy. So whatever you're putting out is being spread with others as well. Yes, attitude of gratefulness is very helpful. And that's another tip that I use, is to be appreciative and grateful. So, for example, if something is going on in my life, I think people always think, because I coach and train positivity, that I don't have any challenges. I promise you I do. So in the very first moment of being sad or frustrated or angry about something, I may not immediately step into appreciation, but I do pretty quickly. And sometimes if the situation is really got me mad, maybe I can't find something to appreciate about that person, but I can think of 10 other people who I have a very easy relationship with. So I can use that one angry situation to remind me of how I appreciate other people in my life. Or I can stay in this space of really being mad at XYZ and not getting over it. So it's really, there's appreciation for anyone out there, even whatever situation you're in. If it's a really challenging situation, maybe you appreciate that you have a bed to sleep in. I have a family member who is on 24/7 oxygen. And so it really reminded me when that happened. And they're a very appreciative, positive person. It really reminded me that, wow, I'm breathing on my own. So it's something that's so easy to take for granted. So I really appreciate the fact that I can take deep breaths on my own. I don't need external support to breathe. If I needed it, then I'd be appreciative of the external support to breathe. But it's really about baby steps in order to figure out what you need. So I just wanted to really join you for a little bit today, because I know that there's a lot of things in the U.S., around the world, where fear seems to want to get the biggest attention. And I like to say fear is like a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum. It's like, see me, here I am. But love is there all the time, and we get to choose to see it. So the more you can stay in a space of love and be helpful to those who are in a space of fear and a space of sorrow and a space of perhaps personal safety, the more we can help. So another tip would be to volunteer, and get involved, whether it's making phone calls, whether it's volunteering for an organization you believe in, or whether it's just sharing your smile and sharing a kind word to people on the street or to your family. Whatever it is that compels you to bring more love forward is what I would encourage you to do. That you can certainly volunteer for organizations that are out there kind of fighting with the mudslinging, and if that is what you feel is right for you, then that's what you need to do. But the more that you can stand in a space of love for yourself, be gentle with yourself. We're all a work in progress. Every day we're changing and growing. So if you can be your own best friend and not belittle yourself and not belittle others, know that the people who are hurting are most likely hurt themselves. So you can send them compassion. Does not mean that you think what they're doing or what they have done to create the situation is okay. But we don't have to turn into them. We don't have to be shamers ourselves and blamers ourselves, even in those times where it feels so justified, because the things that they say are so hurtful to so many. But rise above it, rise into love, help pull people into love, let people be on their path. Maybe they're where they need to be because that is the situation for them right now. But I really encourage you to be who you want to see the world to be. If you want more kindness in the world, be kinder in your world. If you want more love in the world, be more loving in your world. If you want more compassion in the world, be more compassionate in your world. And that starts with you. Because again, we tend to be the hardest on ourselves. Let me see if there's any other questions here. Could you suggest some books which will change our life? Well, there's so many different books. There's a few that are my favorites that are really easy to read. Wayne Dyer has a book. Oh boy, now I'm not sure I'm going to remember the name. I believe it's called There's an Excuse for Every Reason. And it's basically, he goes through 18 excuses that we use not to live our best life. Like, I'm too old is one excuse. I don't have enough education is one excuse, or things like that. And he gives examples of how to move through those. So it's a Wayne Dyer book for sure. And I think it's called No More Excuses. And he also has a book called There's a Spiritual Solution for Every Reason. I like that one a lot as well. If anybody else has some suggestions on books, please put them in there. Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life is one that I always keep handy because she has examples of physical ailments that we have, what our thought processes are that have helped create those physical ailments and how to move through them. So You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay is a good one as well. And I'm sure as soon as I get off this live, I will think of 10 other books to suggest. I know on positivefocus.com, positive-focus.com, I believe it's under the Be Kind tab. I have a book list of different books that I have read or my board has read. Everything on there has been something that we've either personally experienced or I personally experienced or the board that helps me run Positive Focus has experienced. How do you help people, family, and toxic and not being in the middle? Claudia, that is a great question. How do you help family, people or family who are possibly in toxic situations and that you don't want to be in the middle? Well, since you said family, first of all, I think our loved ones tend to be our biggest challenges because it's harder to disassociate from them. And what I mean by disassociating, I mean more as not attaching to their story. So they may need to be exactly where they are. For me, with Positive Focus, my biggest goal is to emulate what I want others to be. I mean, I can share tips and tools, and that's what I do. I coach people, and that's what I do. I do workshops and share ideas. But really, for me, the more you can be the person you want others to be, they're going to see that and want to, then they'll ask you questions. Why are you so happy all the time? And things like that. When we try to change people, and there's people in my life that I'm like, oh, why can't I get them to be happier or not focus on the negative so much? And I remind myself that's not my job. My job is to help people who are ready to be helped, who come to me and want coaching. I've had many people tell me, it's like, you need to talk to my boss or you need to talk to my boyfriend because they're very negative people. Well, if your boss calls me or your boyfriend calls me, then I'm happy to work with them. I learned long ago trying to convince people to be positive who aren't ready for it. It's stressful for me and they certainly don't like it anyway. So Claudia, my recommendation to you for those people, your family and friends that you don't want to be in the middle with, first of all, you're just going to have to tell them, I'm not in the middle of this if they're both coming to you. So you're just going to have to tell them. But I would encourage you outside of actual interaction with them, start sending them love. When you get up in the morning, send love. Like I like to send love to people who I know who are celebrating. And then I even send an extra dose of love to people that I know that are struggling. And Claudia, there's a really good quote that I use that has made my life much easier. Does not mean it's easy, but it's made it easier. And it's a quote from Neale Donald Walsch. And it's about unconditional love. And many years ago, I thought love, especially romantic love, had conditions. If you cheat on me, I don't love you anymore, that kind of thing. his quote is, "I love you, but if you continue this behavior, I'm going to leave the room. I love you, but if you continue this behavior, I'm going to leave the house. I love you, but if you continue this behavior, I'm going to leave your life." So it was a great reminder to me that I can love everybody, even people I disagree with, and maybe even people that really make me mad. But I intentionally choose who I participate with. So the people that are either choosing to focus on the negatives and blame and shame, I choose, like, do I want them in my life at all? And if I do, then I spend less time with them than the people that uplift and inspire me as I uplift and inspire them. So I can send people off with love. I'm not making them wrong. I'm just choosing how much I'm going to spend my energy with them. If there are people who suck and drain my energy, then I need to step back because it's not helping them and it's not helping me if that's the situation. It's not saying that they're wrong. Everybody is on their own journey. So try that, Claudia, and I would love to hear if you're noticing a difference, like PM me in a week or so and see. But each day, send love to those people that you know are in conflict. And I also ask for the highest and best good for all involved, because sometimes I think I know the highest and best good. I can tell you in a recent relationship, I knew what was best, or I thought, but it truly wasn't best for me in the long run. So it did not work out the way that I thought it should, but by far it worked out the way it needed to for now. So the more you can be in love, the more you can keep your own energy in love, the more you're gentle with yourself when you do step into fear, and just ask yourself, this doesn't feel good, what does? Because I bet everybody who is with me today, even when you get into that complaining or blaming state, and I've done it, I do it. It doesn't feel good when you really think about it. Sometimes we stop being aware of what we're thinking, and we stop being aware of what we're saying, and we're even sometimes on autopilot on what we're doing. So the more that you're aware of how you feel, then you're always getting to make choices, but then you're intentionally making a choice to be what you want the world to see you as. And your truth is love. So anytime you're not coming from a place of love, you're just stepping out of your own truth. So I really encourage you to be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself, be loving to yourself, and be compassionate with yourself. Love that, Claudia. I am love, I am kind, I am compassion. I have probably missed a few questions, so I will go back and check those out in a moment as well. I just want to wrap up and do the reminders. So my first tip is to breathe. Like anytime you step into that fear space, take some deep breaths, re-engage your entire body with new oxygen to make your decision making easier. And then secondly is to honor your feelings. Again, just because you're a positive person does not mean you're not going to have negative experiences or negative feelings. I forget how many different thoughts we have a day, but it's thousands upon thousands. So if you're 51% positive, you're doing good. So don't beat yourself up when you have a negative thought. Don't beat yourself up when you've said something negative or acted upon something negative. Re-engage with love. Negative thoughts are just trying to tell you that you're not worthy of that love, and you are so worthy of that. So feel the feels, just don't act upon them. You're going to get mad. You're going to be sad. You're going to be frustrated, but you're also going to be loving. You're also going to be happy. You're also going to be excited. You're also going to be joyful. So all of those emotions that we have are there to serve you and not to harm you. You get to choose how to move through them. And then as far as Facebook or social media, or even just talking with your family and friends, before you share a negative, a hard, a hurtful story, a story that makes you mad, ask yourself a couple of things. One, is it true? Because there's a whole lot of memes out there and stories being shared by sources that don't check to make sure that they're true. So then they get spread and spread and spread, and people start believing them when in fact it's false. So make sure what you're sharing is true. Ask yourself, do you need to share it? by sharing this negative story, by sharing this scary story, are you enhancing life or are you detracting from life? And that does not mean that not to talk about the things that are scary and hard in the world. It's just to talk about it from doing it in a way with respect and to bring compassion and love rather than blame and shame. And again, that's the way I operate. Everyone here has to do it the way that works for them. But I just want you to listen to your heart, listen to how you feel about it, because I really think if you really tune into your heart, you're going to realize when you are in that complaining mode, it does not feel good. Complaining just keeps us stuck. It's not about coming up with solutions. It's not about bringing more love to the world. It's just keeping us focused on what we don't want. When we're in a complaining state, we're focusing on what we don't want. When we're in a shaming place, we're focusing on what we don't want. Ask yourself, does this feel good? And if it doesn't, reach for a better feeling thought. So we're going to do some deep breaths. Then we're going to honor our feelings. We're going to ask ourselves if this is something that we need to share personally. And if it's something that still has us riled up. I mean, I'm all for sending love. We are all energy. So the more you can, whether it's you say it in prayer, whether you say it in a positive intention, whether you just simply say it, send people love. Send the world love. Send your family love. Send people you don't like love. And that, I mean, that is an action step in itself. But get involved. Get involved with your community. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but get involved with an organization that you believe in. Volunteer some time. Go out there and share your smile. Say kind things to people. Thank your bus driver for dropping you off. Just start being the person that you want to see more of in the world. The more you're aware of how you are in the world, the more that you're going to be able to create from that space too. So back again, we're going to take deep breaths. We're going to honor our feelings and not necessarily act upon them, because we want to make sure that what we're sending out is an example of who we want to be in the world. And, you know, we can be angry, but do it in a way that you're not blaming and shaming somebody. There are certainly ways that you can let people know that you're angry about a topic or an event without it being blame and shame. Know if it's true and if you are the one who needs to share it. And what's your intention behind sharing it? Is it to make people mad where they're going to get into blame and shame? Is it to make people rise up and start being active and sharing love? So just know your intention behind it as well. And then get involved. Get involved however it feels right to you. The more that you're sharing your heart, the more that you're sharing your kindness, the more that you're sharing your compassion, the more that the world is going to grow in love, kindness, and compassion. And I just want to remind you in closing, you know, it's easy to focus on what's not going well because it's being put out there a lot. But in this very moment, there are babies taking their first breath. It's a beautiful thing. In this very moment, there are people taking their last breath, and that's a beautiful thing. In this very moment, somebody's getting married and somebody's getting divorced. Somebody's getting a new job and somebody's losing their job. So their life offers us great beauty and life offers us a lot of messiness too. The more that we can stay focused on the beauty in the world and giving love to the messiness and seeing love in the messiness, the more peaceful and kind our world's going to be. So I really encourage you that you are so worth living a life of love. And the more that I can do to help you step into that space, the more I will do. So if there's some ideas that you want me to follow up on, please share in comments as well. I will stop in as soon as I stop this broadcast to give out some virtual hugs too. So thank you for joining me today. That's kind of it for today. That's all I wanted to talk about. So remember, you matter. You matter to me. You matter to the world. And most importantly, you matter to you. So go out there and share you. Share your kindness, share your love, and share your compassion. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.